Hello and welcome everyone. We present to you QUEST-ion, the Science and Technology Quiz, hosted by Quiz Club IIT Patna in association with Celesta 22, the annual Techno-Management Fest of IIT Patna. The rules are as follows. "20 questions in the quiz. Each question carries 10 points. Marks division will be mentioned in case a question requires multiple answers. Please fill up the questions accurately and precisely. We will have a rerun at the end. Form closes 1 minute after the rerun ends. Question number 5, 10, 15 and 20 are star mark questions. They will be used to settle ties. No Googling, it would lead to disqualification. Happy quizzing. First question, a connect question. You have to guess a company. Moving on to next question. X, along with a French music icon, dropped a red-hot techno track in 2016. The song, called Exit, contained clips of warning of the dangers of privacy interference. Technology can actually increase privacy. The question is, why are our private details that are transmitted online, or why are our private details that are stored on our personal devices any different than the details of the private records of our lives that are stored in our private journals? I think you know the same, that you don't care about the right of privacy because you got nothing to hide is no different than saying you don't care about freedom of speech because you got nothing to say. Who is X who became famous for something different in 2013? Moving on to the next question. Who tweeted these? You have to guess the person who tweeted these tweets. Moving on to the next question. X is an English estate which served to facilitate communication during the Second World War. A large number of employees used to work here in shifts around the clock. Today, it hosts a museum and showcases a number of exhibitions related to the history of this place and the role it played, receiving hundreds of thousands of visitors each year. Google released an Easter egg theme wherein a Google search for this place very aptly results into a text puzzle unique every time, which then solves itself to reveal the name of X. What is the significance of this place X? Moving on to the next question. In the Soviet Union, post-World War II, State censorship was in full effect, and sneaking in any American record was next to impossible. However, some fans found an alternate way. Accidentally discovered by a frontman of a British brand in a flea market, bootleg recording of the band music was made available on discarded wire. Wire was an ideal choice for makeshift records, as the old silver nitrate layer was soft enough to cut a pattern through it, but was firm enough to hold the shape. Secondly, hospitals had to dispose of wire within an year due to the highly inflammable nature. Hence, it was available in bulk and almost for free. The British band member, on being asked how the record looked like, said they would start off with square or rectangular wire, put a plate on it, draw it, and cut it out by hand. What is wire, mainly used in hospitals, that people use as makeshift records? Please note this is a star mark question. Moving on, when IBM Watson was being developed, its creators thought of feeding the data of a particular website X, thinking that this might be a good way for Watson to understand how people actually communicated in real life. However, Watson was unable to filter the cuss words and impolite words that came from the data, which led to the developer team eventually deleting all of X's data from Watson's memory. Recently, a new trend began when an Instagram user asked everyone to show us your name in X. Using the new Add Yours Instagram Story sticker, nearly 2 million users have shared a screenshot of the definition of their name on X within the sticker thread. Identify X. Moving on, people started talking about this after a tweet containing a GIF went viral on Twitter. Scientists explain this illusion as an example of synesthesia, or when the senses get crossed in the brain. For example, hearing a word and immediately seeing a color. It also led to a huge Reddit community, which currently has over 300,000 members who post similar GIFs. These GIFs create a perception of something with the help of apparent motion and vibration effect. What is so special about these GIFs, or what are they called? Moving on. This phrase is a comical way of depicting simplified scientific models or originating in theoretical physics. It refers to physicists' tendency to reduce a problem to the simplest form imaginable in order to make calculations more feasible, even if the simplification hinders the model's application to reality. The phrase comes from a joke that spoofs the simplifying assumptions sometimes used in theoretical physics. Milk production at a dairy farm was low, so the farmer wrote to the local university asking for help from academia. A multidisciplinary team of professors was assembled, headed by a theoretical physicist, and 2 weeks of intensive on-site investigation took place. The scholars then returned to the university, notebooks crammed with data, where the task of writing the report was left to the team leader. Shortly thereafter, the physicist returned to the farm, saying to the farmer, I have the solution, but it works only in the case of dash dash in a vacuum. What two-worded phrase is this? The blanks are not indicative. Moving on to the next question. With each passing year, number of drink spiking cases are increasing. The conversation on this alarming trend and how to stay safe was reignited by a Netflix show. In one scene, two girls, unsure of whether their drinks have been spiked, perform a test, and the results are almost instantaneous. The test was proposed by four college students to give women a discreet way to test their drinks and make use of a commonly worn personal care product. The user has to stir the drink, and if the drink is drugged, it will produce some observable changes, which will alert the user. What is the test or how is it performed? Moving on to the next question. Ophi was such a curious character. From joking to safecracking to drumming to cosplaying to experimenting with LSD were genuine expressions of his idiosyncratic character, as was another of his passions, for which he is not very well known, art. My friend suggested Orphée, which means it is done in French. I spelled it Ofey, which turned out to be a name the blacks used for Whitey. But after all, I was Whitey, so it was alright. He took up the pursuit at the age of 44 and continued to draw and paint for the rest of his life, signing his work Ophi. Many of his drawings display the awkward, off-kilter perspective of the beginner, and a great many others look very accomplished indeed. Why do we have this question in a science quiz, or how do we better know Ophi? The image is shown on the next slide. Please note this is a star marked question. Moving on. In early 1960s, an aeronautical engineer was working on technology to ensure safe landing of Apollo astronauts and to recover the command module. Years later, he was roped in to develop airplane seating that could increase chance of survival in case of a crash. As it turned out later, the technology not only made passengers safer, but it also made the travel comfortable due to its property of even distribution of weight and their ability to recover their original shape. Other uses of the inventions include to line players' helmets, to create insoles, to build inflatable bumper, rafts, and to build horses' saddles. What did he invent which is now used in myriads of products to ensure comfort and safety? Moving on to the next question. Based in Redwood City, California, X was an American technology company that specialized in computer workstations intended for higher education and business use. Apple purchased X and gave the founder his old job back at Apple. Apple also promised that X's operating system would be ported to Macintosh hardware and combined with the Mac OS operating system, which would yield Mac OS X, later called Mac OS. Though not very profitable, the company had a wide-ranging impact on the computer industry. Object-oriented programming and graphical user interfaces became more common after the release of its first products. Several developers used X's platform to write pioneering programs. For example, in 1990, computer scientist Tim Berners-Lee used an X computer to develop the first web browser and web server. Identify X. Moving on, fill in the blanks. Nice store. How do you keep the floor so clean? Oh, we hired this dude named Blank. He's really good hard worker. Doesn't mind the monotony, sweeps out the same area every night. Moving on, according to Charles Arthur in his book Digital Wars, the first use of the phrase X on television appeared in a TV show. On October 15, 2002, in the fourth episode of the show's final season, the character Willow turns to the eponymous Slayer and asks, "Have you X her yet?" The character Xander answers, "She's 17." Willow then clarifies that she meant trying to find relevant information about said person. According to Arthur, just a few months later, all 60 members of a committee selected by the American Dialect Society voted this 2002's most useful new word. Merriam-Webster and the Oxford English Dictionary would soon note the coinage. What is this very common phrase X? Moving on, Leonardo da Vinci is most famous for his paintings that are a sight to behold. However, one of the many things he is not usually associated with is the discovery of X. Although invented much later for practical use, X finds its first mention in a book written by Da Vinci. According to him, the use of a water-filled glass hemisphere could correct a very common defect. More than 300 years later, a German glassblower used this concept to cure himself of the severe disorder he suffered from. With the advancement of plastics, X took the form that we see today. What is X? Please note this is a star mark question. Moving on, what is the context of this tweet? Moving on to the next question. In 1963, a 10-year-old boy borrowed a book from his local library in Cambridge, England. The boy was X, a school child with a passion for mathematics, and the book that had caught his eye recounted the history of Y, the most famous problem in mathematics, which had baffled the greatest minds on the planet for over 3 centuries. To back up his theorem, the author of Y had developed an argument or mathematical proof, and following the first marginal note, he scribbled the most tantalizing comment in the history of mathematics. I have a truly marvelous demonstration of this proposition, which this margin is too narrow to contain. He believed he could prove his theorem, but he never committed his proof to paper. After his death, mathematicians across Europe tried to rediscover the proof of what became known as Y. X realized his childhood dream of proving Y in 1997 and winning the World Scale Prize. Identify the theorem Y. Moving on to the next question. It is the most recognizable photograph ever, Earthrise over the lunar surface, taken in 1968 by Apollo 8. Do you realize, until that photo was published, nobody thought to draw Earth with X on it. Every representation of Earth before that photo was just Earth. We didn't think X were part of Earth. Neil deGrasse Tyson. What is X? Coming to the next question. Finding a bug in your code can be tedious, but if the typo is a proper syntax, neither the IDE nor the compiler will alert you to it. To avoid a similar bug, X condition is used in programming, which, when written wrong, will produce a syntax error and will not compile. Alternatively, most of us know X as probably the most lovable character on internet who has a non-standard way of speech, similar to the modifications done to the code syntax. Identify X. Moving on to the last question. X is a device that can generate an airflow more than 20 times stronger than an average ceiling fan. Its futuristic design is sure to make you wonder about the way it works. It differs from traditional fans in both its appearance and the way it works, drastically. The air flows through the channel in the pedestal through a curved path and comes out from narrow openings at a 16-degree angle around the frame of the fan. This allows for the surrounding air to also be drawn in from multiple areas around the fan, leading to an outlet of constant flow of cool breeze, much like a reverse vacuum cleaner. What is so special about this fan's design? Please note this is a star mark question. Now we'll be having a quick rerun from the start. Here you have to guess a company. Here you have to guess the person X. Who tweeted these? The place. What is the significance of this place? What is why, which are mainly used in hospitals, which are used also to make makeshift rickets. This is a star mark question. Identify the website. What is so special about these GIFs, or what are they called? Identify the phrase. What is the test, or how is it performed? Identify OFI. This is a star mark question. What did he invent? The person, the aeronautical engineer, that is used to ensure comfort and safety. Identify the company. Fill in the blank. Identify the phrase, which is very common. What is X, the invention? Please note this is star marked. What is the context of this tweet? Identify the theorem. What is X here? Identify the character X. And the last question, what is so special about this fan's design? You have 1 minute to submit. After that, G forms will be closed. I hope you have submitted your G forms. Hello and welcome everyone. We present to you QUEST-ion, the Science and Technology Quiz hosted by Quiz Club IIT Patna in association with Celesta 22, the annual Techno-Management Fest of IIT Patna. Now we'll be discussing the answers. Please feel free to answer in the chat. What is the company? What is the connect? The answer to this is Netflix, because fast.com is owned by Netflix and the Flixies are Netflix award. You had to identify the person X. You can guess in the chat. The answer is Edward Snowden. Who tweeted these? Very famous tweets. Ayush guesses Neil deGrasse Tyson. What is the significance of this place X? If you name the place X, it's fine. Yes, it's Bletchley Park, where the Enigma code was cracked during the World War II. Correct, Abhimanyu gets it. What is Y? That people used to make makeshift records. These are X-ray films. Yes, X-ray copies, X-ray scans. Correct. What is X here? Yes, Yash, Urban Dictionary. Abhimanyu gets Urban Dictionary. Ayush. What is so special about these GIFs? Yes, Ayush gets it. Hearing the GIFs. These are known as noisy GIFs. What is the two-worded phrase here? Correct. Devraj gets spherical cow. What is the test? Any guesses? Yes, the nail polish, correct. They developed a nail polish that changes color when it comes in contact with drugs. The user has to stir the drink with their finger. It will change color when the drink is spiked. Correct. Who is Ophi? Correct. Yash Vinod gets again. Feynman. Richard Feynman. What was the invention? Correct. Memory foam. Devraj gets it. What is the company here? If you know the history of Apple, you'll probably know this. Correct. Next by Steve Jobs. Fill in the blanks. A very famous astronomer. Devraj gets it. Kepler. Next. What is this very common phrase X? Quite an easy question. To Google is right. Googled, yes, Google will do. To Google something. What is this invention? By Leonardo da Vinci. Yes, eye lenses, contact lenses. Lavanya gets it. What was the context of this tweet? Pretty famous tweet. Correct, Ayush gets. Parag Agarwal was appointed the CEO of Twitter. Identify the theorem. You must have read this theorem in your school books. Oh, correct. Yash Vinod gets it. Fermat's last theorem. And next was Andrew Wiles, who proved this. What are X? Pretty famous photo. Not satellites, Abhimanyu. Clouds, correct. Lavanya gets it. Who is X? The character. Pretty well-known character. Oh, Devraj gets it. It's Yoda. These are known as Yoda conditions. Not SpongeBob, sorry. What is so special about this fan's design? Not AC. Yes, these are bladeless fans. Yash Vinod gets it. This was our last question. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the quiz. The results will be announced shortly. We'll convey it through the WhatsApp. I hope you have joined the WhatsApp links.